Did you see a different performance in the players today?
I think it was lighter, right? A little bit less pressure because there's not the new manager there, just Nistelrooy for the moment. And they scored 8 goals in the Premier League up to this point, which is really low, 18th in the league. Only a couple teams have scored less, and then they scored 5 tonight, and probably could have been more. So I guess you can say it was a lighter and better performance than what we've seen, at least in the attacking third.
Mm-hmm. He did a grella, didn't he, Poppy? Says one thing in front of a camera, and his actions and mean something else. But hey, credit to Van Nistelrooy, for me, lapping it up, club legend, and enjoying every moment, and rightly so. The one concerning thing for me still, even with that performance, is the ease of goals that they concede. And moving forward, whether it's Ruben Amorim, who's going to come in to become the new Manchester United manager, he still has to work with these players. But I give credit to Ruben Van Nistelrooy. They got the job done. Still wasn't convincing. Still a lot of work to be done at this football club.
Yeah, I thought it was a good performance from United, something they needed. I agree with your talk of lightness. It just felt like something was off of their shoulders, some of that responsibility. Erik ten Hag is still our coach. Can this finally be over? And they've played a little bit lighter, and it helps when you score 5 goals. But, yeah, I have the same concerns as you. Still kind of schoolboy errors defensively, and if they can't tighten that up, they're not going to win anything of consequence.
And just the difference, this is a cup game. Right? We've played in this competition where managers just go out there and express yourself. It's easy to do that. But when you're playing a Premier League game and there's points at stake and then table positioning and what your ambitions are for that season, it's a complete different mentality. So it's a breath of fresh air for them to get away from it. Will we see the same performance in the Premier League? I doubt it.
Yeah, it'll be good to see what they do against Chelsea this coming weekend in the Premier League. Steve Cooper under a bit of pressure with Leicester, though, with that loss tonight. Here's just a reminder of what else is happening in the Carabao Cup. We do, of course, have the one game that's into the second half in London. Tottenham, they're still up 2-1 against Manchester City. Meanwhile, Newcastle with a big win against Chelsea. 2-0, it finished at St James's Park. Arsenal knocked out the only remaining side from the Championship today at Preston North End. 3-0 the final score at Deepdale, and Liverpool got past Brighton 3-2 in their game at the Amex. We're going to bring you all of the highlights and reaction after this short break. Stay with us. Quarterfinals, and today we know most of the teams that are going to join them, other than the second half that's still going on between Tottenham and Manchester City. Some really interesting results today, though. Newcastle beating Chelsea 2-0, Crystal Palace knocking out Aston Villa with a 2-1 win at Villa Park. Brighton fell to Liverpool at the Amex 3-2, and Manchester United, well, they put 5 past Leicester City at Old Trafford, 5-2. That one finished. Good to have you with us, everybody. I'm Poppy Miller, alongside Jimmy Conrad, Mike Grella and Nigel Reo-Coker. Well, I suppose, Jimmy, in some ways you could kind of take that Manchester United result with a pinch of salt, but it did feel like the players had a bit of a point to prove today, didn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot going on over there, I'm sure, both tactically with Ruud van Nistelrooy coming in and being a former legend of the club, or current legend of the club, but former player, where he scored a lot of goals. So he probably had some offensive ideas that he wanted to implement. And this was his big opportunity to do so, and he got rewarded with 5 goals. And yes, it did look like there was a bit of lightness in their play, but it helps when you score an early goal. Casemiro got the party started with an absolute banger, and I think them scoring first took a lot of the pressure off. Had Leicester scored first, maybe it gets a little dicey, the crowd starts to turn against you, and then you're playing from that type of emotional place. But when you score early, the party gets going, you score another one, and then now you're like, wow, this is nice. I love playing at Old Trafford.
Any world for Ruud, do you think, Grell?
I don't know. I would love to see him, because I'm a big fan of him as a person and a player, obviously. But it's just like they're such in an unfair position, right? Because if they go out and win 5-2 today, and we're like, it doesn't mean really that much, you know? But if they would have lost tonight, we'd have been like, what's going on? They can't lose at home to Leicester. And they put themselves sort of, by so many years of subpar results, they put themselves at this sort of, mercy of the people and the media. It's very unfair to them, I think.
Not at all. You can't get angry if you have high standards.
But they win 5-2, and it's like, no big deal. But if they would have lost, we would have been like, they'd blow the whole thing up. You
cannot be upset at that. If you have high standards that you've been judged at for so long, you have to stay to those standards. You know it as a player as well, where managers and coaches say to you, those are the standards.
Those standards, and that ship sailed, man, a while back, I think.
They're always under the microscope, aren't they? And they're going to be even more over the coming weeks as we see who does take over. Let's show you the highlights, though, and show you how all the goals happened in Manchester. No doubt Ruud van Nistelrooy enjoyed the moment. Here he is on the touchline, a legend of the club, and he took every moment to soak it in. And then Casemiro, as you mentioned, got things going with that.
I have to take this first one. What an absolute banger of a goal in the top corner. Obviously, he's got plenty of experience, Casemiro, but that's what they needed. 15 minutes into the game, they needed to score that first one, Grella. Or Nigel.
This is the weak side here. Garnacho coming in on the weak side. We see a lot of goals like this, especially in England, and on a plate for him. You just got to hit the target, hit it pure. He does that. 2-0 Manchester to get rolling early in this one.
They did, but then cue the circus music. Because they're going to give up a goal that they should be able to manage in this point. It's a set piece, but I don't want to take anything away from that finish by El Canoes. Wow.
Yeah, and Bruno Fernandes would get one back with the help of a deflection by Justin. Just doesn't head the ball, attack the ball, take it on the face. It's a goal.
39th minute, this one gets shoved across. It's Casemiro with the header. He kind of just bobbles around and it comes back to him. This ball's on a remote control to Casemiro, and then he slams it in for 4-1.
Not to be outdone, though. Right before halftime. How does that fall? Right to Connor Cody, captain for Leicester, says thank you very much. I would have loved to have seen that type of space when I was a centre back in the day, but he puts it away 4-2, gives Leicester a little bit of a chance.
Yeah, another poor goal for Manchester United to give away, but then this one there, he needed this goal, sits the goalkeeper well. Bruno Fernandes, I've done that a few times in training.
Sure,
Never got in a fight. Yes, I have actually. Do not question my technical ability. Great goal by Bruno Fernandes.
So a rare good day at the office for Manchester United. Leicester, maybe the odds were against them, but with how they're doing in the league as well, doesn't look great, does it, for Steve Cooper? I mean, in terms of who's going to come in then, Nige, what do you think is going to happen with this? How quickly do you think we're going to see Ruben Amorim, or is there a chance that we see Ruud van Nistelrooy over the next couple of games, maybe just see what happens?
Well, from the few press releases that we've heard, Ruben Amorim is saying, listen, I'm in charge now, I'm going to make the decision when I want to make that decision. So he's showing that he's basically got the keys and he's in charge and he's got command of it.
Do you like that, by the way? Do you like how he's speaking to the press saying,
I like how he's speaking to the press. I'm just saying for him, he needs to bring that same energy if he does go and become Manchester United, because it's a different kettle of fish. Like, what it means to be Manchester United is not something that people can truly easily understand. We've seen great managers come there. It's such a big club. It's a big job. So that same energy you're showing right now, that's saying you're in charge, when things start to go wrong and you start to get questioned, you need to show that same energy that you're in charge, you're the big boss of Manchester United. But I feel that for me, it's a work in progress. It's a long run. It's not going to be a quick fix. With those players there, we've just seen it's not going to be a quick fix. It's a long work in progress, and there's still a lot to do.
I think there needs to be something, taken into consideration where if they knew that Erik ten Hag was a coach that they didn't want, right? And the writing was on the wall. They've done their homework. They clearly, now they have Ruben Amorim in their sights. They've paid the release clause. Roy a chance. I feel like they would have already done so. However, if I'm Ruben, I would be like, I'm going to wait till the international break. To make the transition now, to come 2 days before, 3 days before a Chelsea match
game,
at home.
Yeah.
Then you got PAOK in the Europa League, and then you got Leicester again. So maybe you can get a couple good results there. But for him to make that transition from another league with his coaching staff, it's just a lot.
What happens to Van Nistelrooy, though? I mean, because he just got there, right? It's like when and now Amorim wants to come in and bring his own staff, which is understandable. He wants to bring in the guys that understand the way he works and his football philosophy. So it's kind of like when you have dinner plans with someone and they bring a friend along, right? It's not the same.
Similar players.
I got carried away. Thoughts on Ruud's first game then?
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was like the old Man United. You come to Old Trafford and you expect to see goals. Attacking football, being on the front foot, and that's what we got today. It was a pleasure to watch. It was. I even struggled to keep count of who scored the goals because it's been a while since we scored so many goals. So it was a good evening and very happy for Ruud.
And a great night for Casemiro. We talked about it a little bit at half-time, and I think he nearly went for another one at the end of the game there as well. But great to see a real galvanised performance from him. Yeah, he's been under scrutiny a little bit in the media and stuff, but he's quality. He's a quality player, and performances like that today are what we expect. What he's probably expected is standard throughout his whole career. He's a fantastic player, and he's unlucky, like we said, not to come away with a hat-trick. He's been brilliant today. He's got his 2 goals. You can see the players coming off the pitch there too. A great atmosphere from the fans. And the fans need goals in a game to get excited for the next game, for example. That puts us in such a good form going into Chelsea as well. The confidence is there. We talked about that before the game, how the goals can breed confidence moving forward. Yeah, your goals, win your games, obviously, and the players have done a lap there, to clap the fans and show their appreciation, because
you need them sometimes. Sometimes when you're under the cosh, you know, your fans can help you to get over the line. And you know, the fans were in good force tonight, and that's because the players, you know, were scoring the goals and making it an exciting game to watch. So it was great to see. Great.
See Ethan Wheatley there as well. We talked a little bit about maybe seeing some players getting some minutes. The manager obviously made 5 substitutions tonight, but nice to see Ethan Wheatley get on the pitch as well.
Yeah,
good to see more of him. Yeah,
he's done brilliantly in the youth levels. Scored a lot of goals. Got a chance last season, I think it was, and you know, these are the games that he'll be looking at, thinking, you know, hopefully I can do something. You've seen him running around a lot, trying to get involved in the action. It'd been brilliant for him to get a goal, but it wasn't to be. But just to be out there with the first team players, you know, I'm sure he's super proud of what he's achieved.
12 goals we have scored so far in the Carabao Cup. We have been lucky in this competition the last few seasons as well. Could this be our year? Because there's only a couple of games to go, as we said before, to get to Wembley. Yeah,
we're in the quarter-final now. You know, Spurs are playing City, so one of them's obviously not going through. Newcastle against... were Newcastle playing? Chelsea, yeah.
Put me on the back foot there. I was like thinking quickly.
I knew it was another big team. But
Spurs has got 20 minutes left of that game, but they are leading that one.
So you know, two big teams are going to be out there, and you find yourself in the quarterfinals. You've scored a bucket of goals coming up to this point, so you know you got to fancy yourselves.
Let's talk a little bit about Garnacho as well. He was absolutely on fire down that left wing.
Yeah, that's the standard we're used to seeing. You know, a lot of players' form of being a bit up and down, but he's remained consistent. He's been involved in goal scoring opportunities or goals like he was tonight, and he's been a real threat. He's super direct. He works really hard for the team, and you know he's a real asset for the club at the minute.
We talked a little bit as well just before we came on air how impressive Ugarte was this evening. What did you like from him?
He was just a rash. He was just giving the opposition no time on the ball. He was covered a lot of grass, and he looked like he was up for it. Like I think a lot of the players look like they're up for it. But he's new to the team. He's new to the club, and he's trying to find his way. It's been difficult for the team in general, so it's not been the easy start for him. But performances like that, if they can keep it up and he can play, get more minutes, get match fit, you know, I'm sure he's a quality player, and we'll get to see that in the coming months.
What kind of manager do you think Ruud van Nistelrooy will be in that dressing room? Obviously, we've seen him, you know, he was celebrating a couple of the goals down there on the touchline.
Well, he looked $1 million stood on the sidelines, so he looks like a bit of a smooth character. But, you know, he's a winner. We saw that throughout his career. He wants to win, and I think that probably comes across to the players in the dressing room. I think a lot of the players will respect him, respect his thoughts, and, you know, listen to what he's got to say, because, you know, especially the young forwards, you're looking at someone like him and you think, you know, he can give you a lot to learn from. So I think, you know, it'll be a real positive influence in the dressing room, and, you know, that showed today.
What forwards did you learn from?
Say that again?
What forwards did you learn from?
Well, Ruud was one of the forwards. I remember doing a finishing session with Ruud, Solskjaer and Luis was it? For that. Yeah, it was pressure. I was waiting for someone to miss a shot, and you know it never happened. But they were the guys that I was constantly watching.
And did they talk you through, you know, techniques and stuff at the time?
Yeah, they're all brilliant. We were all. I think back when I was just started coming through, a lot of the players were like coaches anyway, and that's probably why you've seen a lot of them stepping into that role, because you know the manager had his message, and the players just echoed that throughout the dressing room and in the training pitch. So it was them guys. They would, you know, if you was doing something in training, say, "Oh, you need to do this," or try doing that, or whatever. But they were great, you know, ultimate professionals, and that's why they were so good at what they did.
Let's talk man of the match. I have an idea who you might go for, but the poll is on the Manchester United app now. Fraser Campbell, who would you choose?
Well, I guessed before the game that I was hoping that it was going to be Bruno Fernandes, and he scored 2 goals today. I think he's been super frustrated over the last few months. You know, he's an honest player. He's the captain, and he's doing the sendings off, for example. I think he was just trying to do too much, and he was getting caught up in it. So I think I'm really pleased for, you know, his 2 goals today. even on his second goal, I think he was waiting to try and pass to Xerxes because he knows that he could do with a goal himself. But I thought he played really well today, and mainly for the fact that he needs the goal. I think I'd probably say Fernandes.
See, I actually thought you were going to say Casemiro.
No, Casemiro was brilliant. But, I think Fernandes, he's had a lot of shots this season and he's not scored. So, I'm really happy for him. But, yeah, it could have been Casemiro on a different day.
It could have been a couple this evening, couldn't it?
It makes it awkward.
Ruud was there as well with Erik ten Hag. So maybe if you were Ruben Amorim and you're coming in, do you keep Ruud van Nistelrooy?
No, I think it's a little awkward, right?
Make him an ambassador for the club.
Can you tell the truth?
He's a massive personality and a massive person.
Can you tell the truth
sitting there
and act like you know footballers? No, you do not keep him.
That's what I just said.
You would not keep Ruud van Nistelrooy. That's the reality of it. Footballers have an insecurity complex at times, especially when you become a manager. Yes, they do. Footballers do.
Did you?
The quite interesting thing that keeps this conversation going is Ruben Amorim flew to London and was also potentially going to be the West Ham manager when they got rid of David Moyes. And then obviously didn't work out, had to go back and then had to go and apologise to Sporting. And also he was linked to say now that he could be the successor if Pep Guardiola eventually leaves Manchester City. So again, you've got to look at the process of how they came to this conclusion to go for Ruben Amorim with other managers that are still out there.
And if you were him, would you go to Manchester United or would you wait and think, OK, Premier League clubs are knocking on the door, maybe I wait to see what else is coming, or is this a good move?
Poppy, you would go to Manchester United depending also on the guarantees that you're given. If you're giving good guarantees, you have to go to Manchester United. You cannot turn down Manchester United, especially the manager that he is at where he's at right now. He's not in that situation where Xavi Alonso done a great job at Leverkusen, playing Champions League. Grelly will go wherever anyone will pay him.
Let me ask you a question.
You give Grelly a tenner, he'll go next to it.
Poppy, if the Premier League calls you tomorrow, are you going?
No.
Talk about a liar on TV.
You gotta talk about a liar on TV.
Wow.
Well, we're covering the best of everything here.
You bleed CBS blood, right? Like Grella.
Yes.
The Premier League's a big call, though. Jokes aside, you get called by the Premier League, you're going to go.
Premier League, it's
not even that. It's Manchester United.
It's not Manchester.
Sorry, Manchester United, to be more clear, obviously. But the thing is, too, on the flip side of that, Man United, like with Ten Hag, he was unbelievable at Ajax and the things he accomplished in a league that's less physical, less money. Like there's a lot of differences between what goes on in Holland in the top division there and what goes on in the Premier League.
But
and I think
that's almost the point. Who comes out of Manchester United and thinks I'm ready for the next step? This has helped me. I'm coming out of this better than I left it.
No, but what I'm saying is for Amorim, I think it's a eerily similar hiring because he's done fantastic in Portugal, but Portugal's not the Premier League. So you would think at a club of Man United stature, they would bring in a guy who's done it in the Premier League or a guy that's dealt with huge players.
They'll say that about Jose Mourinho. Well, in England, they didn't know too much about him, but take it that he won the Champions League with Porto, also had a stint at Barcelona, and he went there and he transformed English football. So you still got to give him a chance and opportunity.
I know, it's a one-off, though.
My biggest worry is, I say for me, it's the players currently at Manchester United that I think is the biggest problem.
So if Amorim comes in, that's what I think he has to address.
They have to give him time.
Well, they're going to have to give him time, but I don't think they're going to add anything. Like if you're going to bring him into the team, you're like, these are the guys you have to work with. Can you have success with this team? By the way, we're going to try to shed anybody we can in the January transfer window. Anthony, if you can. But if these players aren't going to be part of your future, we're only going to add if we can subtract. And he's walking into that. That's the one thing. Okay, it's Manchester United. You got to go. You got to do it. I mean, it could be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
But how does he buy the players over? Because that has been the problem, hasn't it? This power struggle, it seems like, between the manager and the players. So it's fine Manchester United are saying, here you go, work with them. But are you worried in any way that there's going to be this big disconnect again?
I would say if I was coming into this situation, I'm sure you guys would say something similar. Less is more. You come in and try to simplify the game as much as you possibly can. I'm sure Ruud van Nistelrooy did something similar tonight, and the players responded. Obviously, get a couple early goals, get the confidence going, but you get that less is more approach, get the foundation set. We see it with Antonio Conte with Napoli. You get the defensive side of it sorted out. That's the easiest part of the game to get sorted out, and then you work your way up the field.
You say that if you've got the players that can accomplish that defensively.
I get that.
That's the question.
No, that's the big challenge.
I think they have good players. I think they have players that want to work. I think they had players there that showed that they tried their best for Ten Hag for a long time. I mean, he was sacked a year ago. His body was just there on the sideline for forever. and the United has quality players. They have quality all over the place. They have a lot of quality in the building. I just think
Who's the best player for Manchester United?
They're all over the place.
How many Man United players would get into Manchester City right now?
For instance, like they signed Zirkzee. I don't even know. When you talk to anyone who follows Man United or anyone in the building, I don't know if they knew that he's like a false nine. I think English fans thought that he was going to come in and start banging 20 goals. I mean, it's not his game. You know, then they bring in Højlund, and he's not quite ready. And I think there's guys that are just all over playing their own individual games. And sometimes it clicks and they look good, and sometimes it doesn't, and they look all over the place.
What Man United players would get into a Man City starting 11 now, or a Liverpool, or an Arsenal? That's the question you ask, because you're Manchester United. That's what you're competing against. Do you have players that will get into any of those two teams starting lineup right now?
I think if you get those Man United players on the same page, you have a few that can get into the first team.
I don't see it. Well, for what they're competing against, I don't see it. I don't see any of them getting into those sides.
Højlund could be a world-class talent. You don't go for that much money if you're just, if you're not good.
I think Bruno could slot into those teams.
Bruno is probably the only player I would say who could probably get into
Casemiro
that.
The Ruud van Nistelrooy era began in fine style, with Manchester United brushing Leicester City aside in the Carabao Cup. Goals were at a premium in the first half, with Casemiro and Alejandro Garnacho on target to open up a 2-goal lead before Bilal El Khanas pulled one back. Bruno Fernandes got United's third with a deflected free kick before Casemiro added his second, with Conor Coady making it 4-2 at the break. It got even better after the break as captain Fernandes scored his second of the game. That did for the Foxes, while seeing United march on to the quarter-finals. Van Nistelrooy is expected to remain in charge for Sunday's match against Chelsea as United wait for Ruben Amorim. On the strength of this, the Blues may well be worried about their rivals' attacking power. Van Nistelrooy made 4 changes to the side beaten in Erik ten Hag's final game on Sunday. Casemiro and Fernandes were among those to keep their places, though, and the trust was rewarded. The first goal of the game was the most impressive, a long-range screamer from Casemiro, which gave Leicester keeper Danny Ward no chance. Van Nistelrooy would have been impressed with the fluid attacking play for the second as well, though, as Diogo Dalot fed Garnacho to fire home. Casemiro had scored twice in the same game for Manchester United on just 2 occasions before the Leicester game. First against Reading in the 2022-23 FA Cup, and then against Bayern Munich in last season's Champions League. Has not a man known for his goal-scoring, there was just one in his final season as a Real Madrid player, but both efforts were the kind you'd expect from someone more prolific. While his first was a standout moment, his second showed the same poacher's instincts on show against West Ham on Sunday. United will have decisions to make on their midfield once everyone is fully fit and their new manager has his feet under the table, with Kobbie Mainoo and Mason Mount among those absent. In this game, Casemiro made his case as well as he could have hoped. By Bruno Fernandes' high standards, this season has been a disappointment. Many will point to his 2 red cards, even if one of those was later overturned, but his lack of goals has been just as worrying. That scoreless run finally ended on Wednesday, as his free kick flicked off the head of James Justin and wrong-footed Ward. If he was worried about that goal being taken away from him, there were no question marks when he netted again around the hour mark. Fernandes has scored against Chelsea in each of the last 2 seasons, including a penalty in a 4-1 win in 2023. Hell hope he can add another this weekend now that he's off the mark for the new season. It was a tough start to the game for Manuel Ugarte, who slow-tracking Jordan Ayew as the pair battled it out midway through the first half and brought the Ghanaian down with a lazy swing of a leg. The Uruguayan's lack of pace appeared just as much of a concern as the foul, though things did eventually pick up. Ugarte's tough tackling served him well with Sporting CP, and was on show at times as United looked to win the ball high up the pitch. There's still work to be done, but it's worth remembering he didn't have a proper pre-season before joining the club. We have to stay patient, but, as you see, if the quality in that position is not right, it's very difficult for a team to control games, former boss Ten Hag said of the midfielder. Hell hope the arrival of a man who knows him well in the form of Amorim can help speed along his development. One of the characteristics of Ten Hag's final season and a bit was a failure to stem the tide after opponents scored once. A solution to that, of course, is to just keep scoring yourself. While he was an attacking threat as a player at Old Trafford, there was no guarantee he'd be able to oversee the same kind of attacking football from the touchline. United have struggled to create in the league this term, but had no such difficulties under Van Nistelrooy in the Cup. It remains to be seen how long United's interim boss will remain in the dugout, with a start date yet to be set for manager-elect Ruben Amorim. For now, though, all he can try to do is produce results like this one.